Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination, but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. Amateur Traveler, episode 822. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about mosques and gardens, Casbahs and Hercules, riads and Roman ruins, as we go to the African country of Morocco. This is Chris Christensen with Amateur Traveler. Stay tuned as we talk about Morocco. I'd like to welcome to the show Azdean, who has come to us from destinationmorocco.co and from the Destination Morocco podcast. And guess what? He's come to talk to us about Morocco. Azdean, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it.
I think our listeners are going to appreciate it also. You have a different itinerary for us than we've done recently. I think we're starting in the same place in Casablanca, but you're heading in a different direction.
Yes.
Before we do that, why should someone go to Morocco?
That's a really good question. Morocco is a spellbinding country located in North Africa. It is amazing. It is a very exotic country. Having the coast, the Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean, it's incredible. And it's really best for tourists who are interested in discovering the old and the new all in one place. Morocco boasts a mixture of natural wonders and vast history. In its ancient Casbahs, Roman ruins, delightful waterfalls, camel tracks, overnight stays in the Sahara by the oasis, the hilly regions where one can hike or ski, makes it a unique place full of discovery and diversity.
Excellent. Now, it sounds like you read that. You didn't read that for me, did you?
No.
You're just that smooth. Okay. I've mentioned it on the show before, but one of the early Amateur Traveler trips was southern Morocco. And my wife came along. She even got sick halfway through the trip, unfortunately, and yet still says it was her favorite trip ever. She couldn't tell from one day to another what country she was in, or even sometimes what century she was in when we'd go up to a homestay in the high Atlas Mountains, or we'd stay in the Sahara Desert. It just was a fascinating trip.
Thank you.
And what kind of itinerary are you going to recommend for us then?
The one that I recommend, we start the tour in Casablanca because most of the international flights arrive in Casablanca more than any other cities in Morocco.
Okay.
And so basically, when you land in Casablanca, your first day depending on the time that you land. If it's morning, we meet and greet at the airport. Then we take you to your Riyadh or hotel, and then we go over the itinerary with you, and then we give you a few hours to rest. Then we come back, pick you up, and just take you to do the little bit of sightseeing in Casablanca, just the coast, La Corniche, for example, and do dinner outside. Then we'll take you back to the Riyadh or the hotel. Then the next day, we start the tour from Casablanca.
And I should say that the form of which Azdean is saying this, you probably have already figured out already that he runs tours to Morocco. So when he says he would take you, he's describing if you went with him as a member of one of his tours. But we'll talk about these not just if you're on his tours, but also what you're going to see. When we're in Casablanca, if we fly into Casablanca before we leave, are there things that you really recommend seeing? You said you're going to stay at a Rian, I think is what you.
Yes, that's exactly right, Chris.
We have talked about it on the show before, but can you tell us what a riad is?
Riyadh is a traditional old Moroccan houses. This is how we used to live back in the 1900s and the early 2000s. And the families back then, they used to be large families versus now just, parents, kids. Back then, it used to be cousins, uncles, maybe 3 or 4 families living in the same house. And it's pretty big, massive. It has 2 or 3 floors, levels. And then it has waterfall. That's one of the distinction of Riyadh. And then it has most of the
When
time
you say a waterfall,
not a waterfall.
a
It's
fountain.
fountain. Yes,
Yeah,
my
okay.
apologies. It's
I figured that's
that,
what we were saying.
yes,
Quite common in Moorish architecture to see those water features,
that's
which is
right.
odd in a dry, relatively dry country in many places. Okay.
That's right. And then in some of them, you'll see a banana tree or lemon tree and stuff like that. So it's very nice and unique, and it's a very traditional house. And that's what makes it really different than staying, for example, at a hotel.
Not that there aren't Western style hotels in Casablanca, just why would you want to stay there?
That's a really good question. For people that are traveling, for example, 2, 4, or 6, I always recommend Riyadh because you're going to get that authentic experience. And also, the Riyadhs are not big. They don't have a lot of availability. They may have 7, 8, 10, 20 rooms versus the hotel, which will have a lot more availability. So I always recommend for groups to go to the hotels,
Okay.
for smaller group or couple or 4 people to go to the Riyadh.
Got it. Makes sense. And before we leave Casablanca, we really ought to see.
Casablanca, it's a must see. You have to go and see Hassan II Mosque.
Yep, the large
It
mosque.
is, yeah, it's the second large mosque in I think in the world, unless something else is built just
That was
recently.
my recollection.
Yes. So it's a magnificent structure. It is unbelievable, and it is the only mosque in Morocco that it's allowed to Muslims to go and visit. And basically,
Right.
when you get to the mosque, the outside is marvelous. You can take pictures, videos. Outside, you don't need to pay. But if you need to go inside, you have to have a tour guide with you. And basically, they're just right there by the door. And you can just hire one for $15. They go inside, they give you the ins and outs and everything you need to know about the Hassan II Mosque.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anything else before we
Yes.
head out of town?
Yes, still in Casablanca, I would definitely recommend the Corniche, which we just talked about, just the coastal side of Casablanca. Then also the Cathedral du Sacré-Cœur, which is designed by French architect Paul Tournon, and it's also one of the magnificent attractions in Casablanca as well. And then the other place that I would recommend, which a lot of people are very familiar with, is Rick's Cafe from the movie Casablanca. Even though it
Now,
doesn't
I've
look the
heard
same.
mixed reactions in terms of going to Rick's Cafe. You recommend it?
I would say I would recommend it, but in terms of the itineraries we do, we go with the client wants. But I would
Sure.
still
Yeah.
recommend it. It's different than what it was. It's always busy. It's always packed. And you're right, it is changed. It's a little different. But I will still recommend it just for the sentimental value that it has.
Okay. And
Yes.
you say it has changed, so I'm not going to see people in period costumes, and
Most likely
I'm
no, Chris.
obviously not going to see the stars from the movie or things like that. I assume it's pretty touristy.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. It's very popular, especially the outside people. If you go in, it's always packed. So always book ahead of time if you can.
Got it. Okay.
Otherwise, you'll just take a selfie or a picture from the outside and still says Rick's Cafe and stuff. And it's really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And then it sounds like you're getting ready to move us on then.
Yes, in Casablanca, it's the largest city in Morocco. So you can also go to the old downtown, Old Medina, which is just to see how Morocco was back then. It's very nice, and also that's where the United Nation building is.
Okay.
So it's really nice. And then from Casablanca, we go to Rabat, which is the capital city of Morocco. It's also an imperial city of Morocco. We have four. Rabat is one of them. And the drive between
And
Casablanca and Rabat.
explain that a little bit for me. This is great having somebody from Morocco on the show. You have four imperial cities. Uh, most of us don't need that many. So why do you have four? How does that work?
Four, it just each one of them really represents the dynasty, and each dynasty had
Ah, okay.
its own capital. For example, the Rabat has been the capital of Morocco until today, and that it started in 1912 during the French occupation. Before that, it was Fas, and then before that, it was Meknes with the Idris. No, not Moulay Idris, Moulay Ismail, the Sultan, and then before that, it was Marrakesh. So it moves. A
Okay.
little bit of history, but the capital moves with each dynasty. So the Alawi dynasty, which is the current crown king family, that's what they have there. Rabat is the capital. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was
Oh,
helpful.
absolutely. Absolutely, Chris.
So we're going to Rabat, and what are we going to see in Rabat?
In Rabat, the good thing about Rabat, it's everything that you're going to see, they are all next to each other. For example, it's one of the sites is called Shella, and it's a significant landmark in Rabat, and it's a must-see. Absolutely. The next one is Hassan Tower.
Well, hang on. You told me a significant site, but you didn't tell me why it was a significant site. So I'm going to back you up there just a bit.
It was built back during the Roman time.
Okay.
Around 40 AD. It's also a World Heritage Site, and it has been given that status since 2012. And it's definitely a must see. It's a very popular site.
Got it. And sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just going to the next site in Rabat. So there's Shella, then there's Hassan Tower. Hassan Tower, which is it is actually a mosque, but it was supposed to be completely built, but as it stands, is not completely built actually. And it was commissioned back in the 12th century, around 1195, by Abu Yusuf Yaqub, and the tower was intended to be the world's largest minaret at the time. However, in 1119, the construction stopped due to the Sultan's death, and it stands now tall at 140 feet, and it's a beautiful structure and a mosque.
And I see pictures of it with Roman ruins, it looks like, in the foreground. So are those two sites right next to each other?
Yes, they're next to each other. Yes, that's the good thing about Rabat. When you visit Rabat, everything it's a walking distance.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't need to drive. They're all next to each other.
No, I know what you mean.
And the other thing that I would absolutely recommend is Kasbat Udaya. Okay. And this one is closer to, it's called Abu Regreg River. There's a small river between the city of Rabat and the neighboring city of Saleh. Saleh is a small city. It's a small city, and it was built back in the 12th century.
And so we're going there as we would go to the old Medina in Casablanca to see some of that old city kind of vibe, markets and that sort of thing? Okay.
Yes. Also, Rabat has its own Medina or Old Medina as well. So in each city, you will always find that old Medina, old city, old downtown. So each city has that as well. So Rabat is no different. And the old Medina, Rabat, was built back in the 17th century. So it's been there for quite some time. And the next one that I would recommend is the Andalusian Garden as well. If you're in Rabat and you want to there's museums, there's also gardens if you want to visit that. And this one is from the Moorish time, and it's a really nice garden to see.
Okay, so this is from the time period when the Moors were ruling both here and obviously up into Spain as well. Hence
That's correct. That's correct, Chris. And then the other one that I would recommend, and I think this is one of the highlights of Rabat, and a lot of people go and see the mausoleum of Muhammad V, the late king, him and his sons. So this is one of the best or most popular attractions as well.
Got it. I think I recognize seeing pictures of that before and seeing Rabat.
Yeah. It's really a masterpiece of modern Alawite dynasty architecture. You can see the silhouette and the top green tiled roof. It stands out actually in the whole area. When you're doing that site visit, it really stands out. So that's where Muhammad V, that's his mausoleum. Then you have the Prince Abdullah. The next to him is the late King Hassan II, which was the Mosque of Casablanca was named after him.
Okay.
Yes.
and Mohammed V being from 27 to 53. So
Yes.
not quite in my lifetime, but in my father's lifetime there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And then after that, we go up north and we visit a small city. It's called Asila. And the city, it's very artistic. And it was built by the Portuguese back in the 15th century. It's a really nice, very small city, but it's worth a stop. And it's right before you get into Tangier.
And so many of the other Portuguese cities, influenced cities in Morocco, were on the coast still. So you went
Right.
along the coast all the way up here to the northernmost of the Atlantic coast. Okay.
Absolutely, Chris. Yes. Yes. So when you're in Asila, there's few things that you can see actually. Couple, again, I'll go back to the old Medina. Then there's a church of San Bartolone, and then the Risuli. So there's few sites that you can go and see. That's before heading to Tangier, actually.
And the palace would have been the local sultan's palace.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
And then you say up to Tangier.
Yes. Yeah, and Tangier, it's in Morocco, we call it the Queen of Morocco. It's a beautiful city. It has seen the most advancement in terms of development more than
Mhm.
any other city in Morocco. And the port of Tangier is, I believe, it's number one or number two in Africa. So it's quite really popular. And it's back in during the World War II, it was called International City. And it's very popular amongst the Americans.
Okay.
Yes.
And now you say it's a Velda city. It's a place where I'm going to find a lot of Western style hotels
That's right.
and
Yes. Yes,
beach
it's
culture as
yes.
well.
That
Uh,
is correct. Yes.
Tourists coming in also just for the day because you're so close to Spain at this point.
Yes.
What
Yes.
do you recommend doing in Tangier?
Oh, Tangier, I would definitely recommend the Old Medina. Just wandering around the maze of the alleyways of Tangier. It's quite an amazing experience. I definitely recommend it. And also, it was basically built also by the Portuguese in the 15th century. And I would say go to the Kasbah, which is located in the hill of Tangier, where it's fascinating view of the ocean. It gives you the bird's eye view of the ocean. And also there's a lot of museums that you can see. Also there's a place called Darm. It's a museum now. And also it has it has an American building. I forgot the name of it, which was donated by Sultan at the time to America because Morocco was the first country to recognize
Recognize
United
the
States
U.S.
as yes, exactly. So that's the only building that is American building outside the United States, and it's
Okay.
located in Tangier. So people can go and visit, and they have opening and closing times, and it's incredible. So
Okay. Now,
yeah.
a couple clarifications. You say the Kasbah, which is one of those great Moroccan words that is so evocative, but I'm not sure that everybody knows what a Kasbah is, but you're talking about a fortress.
Yes, a fortress. Yes,
Okay.
my
Uh,
apologies. Yes,
that's all right.
yes,
You would have, it would have been a shame if you had not used the Moroccan word for that because I love the Kasbah.
thank you.
But, and then you talked about going to the Medina, and we've talked about this a few different times that you should do that, the oldest part of the city
Yes.
and where you're going to find markets and things. If I'm in Morocco, what should I look for in the Medina? What's the best experiences that I'm going to find? What particular goods should I shop for that are great in Morocco? Or what should I sample if there are people, if there's food there? Tell us a little bit more about the Medina experience.
The Medina
Because we're talking
experience
about my favorite part of Morocco.
the Medina experience, it's each city has its own Medina, and each
Right.
city, just like you said, when your wife visited, each city has its own culture, and Tangier has its own culture, Marrakesh has its own culture, Fes the
Hmm.
same way. So when you go to Medina, yeah, the Medina means the same thing anywhere you go, but for each city, it's different.
Okay.
The language in Tangier is different. In Tangier, we speak the same language, but their dialect is a little different, and they
Hmm.
speak more of Spanish than
Okay.
French,
That makes sense. Yeah.
exactly to the south or the mid country in Morocco. When you go to Medina, I would say the shops, the spices, and then the food. And the food can be very tricky. So there's a lot of Moroccan delicacies. I would say just give yourself a little bit of time when you get to Morocco. Don't just jump and eat everything. Just slow down. Just test yourself and test your system if it's because you don't want to get sick. Because a lot of that stuff is it's a little bit different than the US and it's processed a little different than the US. So that's what I would do. And also, I'll go if I want to eat and I don't know the place, I go somewhere where the locals are. When I
Sure.
see a table or anything, there's a lot of locals. That's what I want to go and get the food. So that's what I would recommend.
So when you have a
Definitely.
group that it's their first time in Morocco and you take them maybe in Casablanca to the Medina, what restaurant do you take them to, or what type of dish do you look for introducing people into Moroccan cuisine?
That's a really good
I
question.
guess tagine, but that's just because it seemed to be ubiquitous. But what would you say for that?
Tagine, when you say tagine, it's really a vast word. Tagine can be the same tagine, but it's made 200 different ways. For example, Casablanca, it's a little bit more sophisticated. The restaurant look a little bit similar to the US. But one
Okay.
thing that I do recommend for everybody in Morocco or going to Morocco, even especially with the food,
Mhm.
don't want to go anywhere you don't know anyone. You have to go somewhere where somebody says, hey, go to this place. And then
Okay.
when you go in and said, hey, so and so recommended you, because when you say that, they will give you better service, they'll give you better experience, they'll treat you a little bit different.
Okay.
And again, to your point, if you want to have chicken, if you want to have fish, if you want to have beef, lamb, so it just really depends. So
Mhm.
Casablanca is a little bit more modern, but I would say the best place to have street food is definitely Marrakesh.
Okay.
And the best place to have fine dining experience in terms of food is Fes, for sure. And
Interesting.
also, yeah, it's really interesting. But the coastal cities, for example, I always go for the seafood. The seafood is
Okay.
just incredible, amazing. Yeah.
Excellent.
Konnichiwa, I'm Yuki, a tour leader with Explore. Who knew that hidden among Tokyo's towering skyscrapers was a peaceful tea house surrounded by ancient trees and serene ponds? Actually, I knew. It was my mother's secret sanctuary. Not everyone knows about Tokyo's Hamarikyu Gardens. But you will if you explore. Search exploreworldwide.com and don't just travel, explore.
These are violent criminals, so they're not going to go down easy.
ABC Tuesdays.
Let's get this done.
The Rookie is back.
We have 2 new rookies starting today.
Howdy.
Being a cop is stressful 24/7. Every year on the job is different.
And Training Day
We have a serial killer at large.
never ends.
We need an ambulance!
The Rookie. All new Tuesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Okay. I interrupted you. Where to next? Anything else we're seeing in Tangier before we
In
head?
Tangier, there's quite a bit of places. You have to go and see the tomb of Ibn Battuta. And Ibn Battuta is a traveler. He's from Tangier and he traveled the world, and he's well known globally for his travel as well. And this is back in, I believe, in the 14th century. It's a very popular site. When you go see it, it's really popular. I would definitely recommend it. And also Cap Spartel. When you go see it, there's a little bit of Hercules history. There's a little bit of when the Atlantic Ocean meets the Mediterranean, and sometimes when you go, you definitely have to take pictures. Sometimes during the day, it's available, and you can get the picture taken really quick. And sometimes there's a line depending on the time of day you get to that point.
And you say Hercules. Obviously, we're talking about the Straits of Gibraltar used to be the Pillars of Hercules. So
Yes.
very much associated
Yes.
with that mythical character, or I think mythical character.
Yeah.
But what are we going to see here in the Tangier side?
In Tangier side, there's a really popular cave. When you go to it, they say that he built Tangier basically, and that's the start of Tangier is that cave. So there's a lot of history and museum, and it's definitely worth it to go and see it for sure.
And there are, I understand, man-made parts of the cave, but feel like we're cutting the Berber people short by saying they were built by Hercules.
That is true, but the other thing, and I do apologize because they believe also Hercules is half Berber.
There you go. Okay. All right. Now I get it. That's fair enough.
Yes.
Of course they do. That's interesting.
Yes.
Excellent. Anything else we're seeing in Tangier?
In Tangier, I would say it has the modern side of Tangier. Tangier, it's a very peaceful city. It's very different. And the name from Tangier actually came, it's not actually the name, but the tangerines named after Tangier.
Oh, okay.
And this is back in the 40s and the early 50s. Americans, when they went to Tangier, they could not pronounce it, and they named the tangerines. They said, what are these from? They said Tangier. They couldn't say Tangier, but they just say tangerine. So that's how that fruit got named, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I could see that.
yeah. And then from here, from Tangier, we're going to be headed down to Chefchaouen, which is the blue pearl of Morocco. And again, the scenery completely is different than the what you have seen in Tangier. It's an amazing stop. So
When you say the Blue Pearl, we're talking about a city that is Blue,
Yes.
all blue.
Yes. Excuse me. It is blue. It is. It looks like you're in a Smurf town. It's incredible. So the city was founded back in the 14th century, and it was populated back then. There's different people that came to Chefchaouen. Part of them came from Spain because of a lot of Jews were kicked out at the time. So they came to Morocco at that time. Then the Berbers, which were mixed with the Jews as well. So it's incredible sight. And they say the blue comes from, everybody says different things. They say the blue, it's relevant to the Jewish religion. And some they say that light blue wash, it's basically the city used to be infested with insects, and that color keeps the insects out of the city. So I don't really know the reasoning behind
Okay.
the name for Chef.
Yeah, I've never heard an explanation
Yeah.
in terms of why it was blue. But
Yes. And it has a lot of Moorish influence, Jewish influence, Spanish influence, Berber influence. So it's a very diverse little city, and it's just incredible. I've been and I love it. And also the food is just, it's incredible. It's Moroccan food with Spanish infusion, and it's very different anywhere else in Morocco. And also the city of Chefchaouen has really different culture as well. So the people are really laid back. They're not modern people. They tend to stay asleep a little bit longer, but they're very friendly.
okay.
Yeah. Yes.
It feels like a city that would be particularly popular now with the Instagram culture.
Yeah. Yes, it is actually. And in the last, I would say, almost a decade, this city was hidden to the tourists, to the outside,
Yeah.
known only to the locals. But because of conventions, because of people, because of a lot of in Asia, Japan, China, this is one of their favorite city. It's Chefchaouen. And you can see it when you go, you'll see a lot of tourists from Japan, tourists from Asia. They love the city and they talk about it quite a bit. And just like you said, it's very Instagrammable, and you'll get your friends jealous when you take pictures of Chefchaouen. I swear to you, it was just, for me, it was mind blowing. There's a lot of places to visit actually in Chefchaouen as well.
Okay.
They have the old Medina, which is their downtown is a little different. It's a very small downtown,
Okay.
but it has a little bit of shops, a little bit of restaurants. You cannot tell that it's downtown. It feels like it's just a square more than a downtown,
Okay.
but it's really nice. Also, they have a kasbah, which is it's a historic fortress, was built back in the 14th century as well by Rashid. So that's really a must see. Then they have, it's like a little bit of waterfalls. This is waterfall. It's called Wed Ras Lima. Lima means water in Arabic. A lot of people go here and they can spend the whole day. And that's what I would recommend. At least half a day, waterfall, swimming. It's a really nice, very soothing area, very calm, beautiful place. Then also they have a few museums that you can see. And one of them is the Eco Museum. Let me pronounce the name. It's Asmenten Eco Museum. It's really nice. Then my favorite was the Spanish Mosque. It's called the Spanish Mosque, but it's not an active, people don't go pray. It's just the building is still there. And if you have seen any pictures for Chefchaouen, you'll see that the hill with the houses, and it's beautiful. Sunset, sunrise, it's gorgeous. And there's riads, obviously, throughout. When you go up the hill, you'll see a lot of people from all walks of life. It's just amazing. Everybody's waiting for the sun to go down, and a lot of people take pictures and videos. But for me, because it took me a little bit it's a physical challenge for me because of the mountains. So I got
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging for me. But once I got there, I was like, you know what, this is worth it. And the mosque was built back in the 1920s.
Okay.
And it's still standing. It's a magnificent building.
And you say the mountains. So we have now finally left the coast. We had went up along the coast all the way to Tangier, and then we ran out of Morocco.
Yes.
And so you came back down, and now we're up in the mountains in the northern part of the country.
Yes.
Now, you said the Eco Museum. I don't know what an Eco Museum would be.
It's basically, it's like a national park.
Okay.
Situated at the entrance.
Yes. It's that Eco. Okay,
yes.
got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing is there's also a Grand Mosque in Chefchaouen that a lot of people see, but you can only see it from the outside. You cannot go inside. No one is allowed. And it's still popular. A lot of people still take a lot of pictures and stuff like that. Chefchaouen, when you go to the city, you can easily get lost. So if you want to take pictures, you want to somewhere where there's a lot of people that you can take pictures with them. The shops are open and stuff like that. And it can be really tricky. So if it's somebody's first time, they'll probably get lost maybe 5-10 minutes before they find their way. And then it's just beautiful. take pictures of everything. It's really nice.
Okay. Interesting. Where to next?
Oh, the next stop that we have it's a site called Volubilis. Now, the landscape really changes in Morocco so quick. Every 45 minutes, 1 hour, you're in a totally different area. And it's incredible. So you don't know what to expect next. So it's, again, one of the Roman ruins in Morocco. There's actually 6 sites that are similar to Volubilis, but this one is the one that it's still most intact. Because what happened is there was an earthquake in Portugal, and the effect of that earthquake really demolished the city of Volubilis and the other ones, as far as, Rabat city, which is pretty far from Volubilis. And it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's magnificent. It's between Meknes and Chefchaouen, yes. So on your way, you'll find Volubilis. And Volubilis, when you see it, you think of the Romans. Anywhere the Romans, they established the city, that city has to be on the hills. It has to be fertile. So Chefchaouen and Volubilis, they're in the Rif Mountains. In Morocco, we have the Atlas Mountains in the mid-country. Then on the north side, we have the Rif Mountains. So this is in the Rif Mountains, and it's a beautiful site. When you stand in Volubilis, you can see the land. It's fertile. Everything is green. And that was one of the reasons for the Romans, anywhere they go to build a city, it has to be fertile. Then once you go to Volubilis, it's really mind-blowing for me. I went to it twice in one trip because that's how much I loved it. And the reason is, the first time I went in summertime, which can be really hot. I would not recommend it unless you have to. I took my video with me. I had a GoPro, but I knew that the battery is not going to last for a long time. So I visited the museum. So the museum is, when you go in, you go downstairs and it's going to be on your right-hand side. That's the museum. It's air conditioned. It's beautiful. It's very nice. It took me about 45 minutes to do the museum visit. So now, when I came back, I did the actual site, and it took me about an hour and 15 minutes. And there are 4 different monuments to see in Volubilis. And the name Volubilis comes from the Berber name flower. So that's what it means, flower. So when you go in, and also you will realize how olive oil and the importance of it was to the Romans. So they have where they can make their own olive oil, the process from A to Z. You'll see where they used to bathe. You'll see where they used to raise fish. You'll see where they used to, their kitchen, everything. It was just incredible. And then you'll see some of the architecture or the painting, or they were made by it's called Zalij, which is Moroccan mosaic, and it's a fish. And then there's one for a gentleman. He looks like a Caesar, but he's actually Berber inspired. So the Romans respected the Berbers, and that's one of their dedications to the Berbers. And it's when you go into Volubilis, that place really becomes alive. And then when you see the ground, you'll see those big stones when you're walking. You can still see the tracks from the tires back in the Roman era. It's incredible. It's an amazing site, and it's a must see.
Interesting. It's interesting. I've never heard of that site.
Yes. And also, there's a team actually of French and European archaeologists. They spent about 6 months just trying to find the theater, because there's always gladiators there, the theater for the Romans. And in Volubilis, it's there. They just have not found it yet. And my guess, they'll probably find it maybe within a decade or so. They're still looking for the theater.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned summer very hot. That does beg the question of, when do you recommend people go to Morocco if they have complete control of their schedule?
The best time, I would say, March, April, and May. Those are my top favorite. That's the busy season. June is really good. July and August are really painful. The reason, because it's hot, and that's not just the reason. Also because everything gets expensive. The availability of things are a lot less. And also because of the Moroccans from everywhere, because of the school of their kids, that's the time that they go back to Morocco. So it gets really congested. You can still have a lot of fun. It's just my personal experience. I like it. I've been to Morocco in every month, and summertime is my least favorite. So
now, if I was going to go in summertime, I would think if I stayed along the coast, for instance, I'm going to have much more pleasant weather than once I head inland away from the coast.
Absolutely, Chris. You're absolutely right. And also, the other challenge is the crowd. If you want to go to the beach, it's super crowded. It's
Okay.
anything you want to go shopping, it's super crowded. The prices double sometimes during the summertime. So
Huh.
that's the reason why, if you have to, there's nothing
Right.
wrong with it.
Yep.
But if you have a choice, I'll say stay away.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
And where are we off to next?
The next city is going to be Meknes, which is also an imperial city. It was built by the Sultan Moulay Idris. This is back in the 11th century. If you were to compare Meknes, for example, to Marrakesh and Fas, it's right in between in terms of the look, in terms of the culture, in terms of everything. Fas is definitely, it is the oldest, and you can see it once you get to Fas. Marrakesh is the most modern, hip, popular, and Meknes right now is similar to what Marrakesh was maybe 20 years ago, and it's getting there.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's a small city, and they also have a small square that it's really similar to Marrakesh, Jam El Fna Square.
Okay.
Yes, and there's quite a bit of things to see in Meknes, and this itinerary, this story, you're right. The way that we did it, when we went up, and then now we're going to be start coming on the other side, Chefchaouen, Volubilis, Meknes, Fas, and so forth. So there's quite a bit of places to see in Meknes as well. Even though it's a small city, it's a very historic, beautiful, quiet city. And the people are really nice. So the one that I would recommend is Iswani, which means it's a historic ruins of Moulay Ismail, significant stable. I have some pictures. You can see them on the itinerary. It used to believe that he had a stable with 12,000 Arabian horses. And now it's just what's left of it is really the ruins. And then you'll see outside, there's a little bit of what do you call it? It looks like, compared to Marrakesh, Menara, which is just a pool of water, a huge pool of water. When you see it, it will make sense to you that that's where the horses used to get their water. They'll be taken out to drink and they'll go back to the stable. So it's a massive waterfront, really amazing. Yes. And then once in Meknes, it's definitely next to the square, there's a gate called Bab al Mansour, which is one of the world's most impressive gates. It's huge gates. Right now, it's under construction. So just restoration. So it should be done probably in a couple of months. And it's closed to visitors for now.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you say hugely impressive, so I'm picturing this wonderful abstract kind of art that I associate with Morocco adorning the gate.
Yes.
Am I in the right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
It's a massive gate. It's very strong, impenetrable gate. It's really, really nice place to visit.
Okay.
Yes.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
It looks like it should open up onto something out of Scheherazade, is really.
Yes. Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely. And also, there's the palace. It's Palace Al Mansour. So it's a 17th century place. That's where the Sultan used to spend his summertime at the time. And it's massive. Also, the good thing about all these sites, they're really close to each other as well. A close vicinity, really nice. Then you have the mausoleum of Moulay Idris Sultan. And also, what used to be us as kids, we believed that Meknes was one of the safest cities during his reign. And you used to believe that if you drop a wallet, you come back 2 months later, your wallet will still be there. So nowadays it's different. They'll take it out of your pocket in 2 minutes.
Okay. Don't try the trick with a wallet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And after Meknes, I would say the site for Meknes should be about half a day.
Okay.
And again, just back to your point, when you're deciding where to stay, whether you're a small group or large group, choose a place that it's close to all those site visits. Because sometimes when you go online and you do your homework, everywhere looks good. The pictures are amazing, but then you keep in mind the closeness to the sites that you're going to be visiting, especially are they walking distance, or you need to take a small taxi, you need to hire somebody else and stuff like that. So that's what I would recommend for anybody going to Morocco. It's really important.
Excellent. Yeah. No, so often you can add to the expense. You can get the cheaper hotel a little further away and then spend it all either on the time that you're taking to get there or the taxi ride or something else, and the logistics of it can just be a lot more, can take away from the experience.
Most definitely, Chris. And also, because keep in mind, when you're traveling, and again, depend if it's solo traveler, female traveler,
Right, sure.
you're exposing yourself. Taxi, I get scammed easily. So for somebody else, it's their first time or even second time or third, they can easily be scammed, especially with the taxis. And you're right, just pay a little extra, be close. It saves you a lot of, which probably limited when you go on your trip to Morocco.
And when you say scammed at the taxis, I usually think of what we call the tourist tax, where you're being overcharged, but it might still be a deal depending on where you're from. It's not that you're in danger or something like that. You're just getting charged more than you would if you're a local.
I completely agree, Chris. Absolutely.
Of all the things I worry about when travel, that is usually not so much one. I've been actually scammed before, and it's a little different from getting the little extra charge because you're from somewhere else.
That is correct.
We've talked about on this show about bargaining in the Medina. And I remember one time I was in Essaouira, I think it was. I actually took the first offer, and the look of surprise on the person's face. Clearly, I could have gotten it for half that, but it was such a good deal. Yeah. At some point, he probably needed that $5 more than I did, so I didn't worry too much about it.
You're right, because it's the art of negotiation. When they love to haggle and baggle. So when you pay a full price, he seemed a little bit more disappointed. Can we do this again, Chris?
Our guide used to say, if you walk away, I think it was our guide actually from Egypt, if you walk away and they're still smiling, you could have gotten it for less.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
I think you've got one more stop on your itinerary for us.
Yes, Fes. Oh my God, Fes. I love Fes. I am originally from Marrakesh. But Fes is it's unbelievable. It was founded back in the 8th, 9th century by Moulay Idris II. This is where everything started for Morocco. This is the origin of the history of Morocco. And it's an amazing city. It's very rich with Berber, very rich with Andalusian history, with Arab, with the Jewish history. It's just incredible. So Fes, in my opinion, if you say somebody has one day to spend in Morocco, I would absolutely say go to Fes. Because it's just, I cannot really speak enough of it because it's incredible. And when we talk about downtowns, Fes has the biggest downtown. It has, I think, over 9,000 streets in downtown. So yes, you will easily get lost in Fes, in downtown. And also in Fes, there's the old Medina, just like any other city. There's the new Medina, there's the Jewish quarter. It's incredible. The history in Fes, things to do in Fes are just endless, really.
And unlike some of the places where you said everything is all together, we're not talking about a small city. Both Marrakesh and Fez are about 1 million people. I think Fez a little more.
Yes. So Fez, they still hold to a lot of Moroccan traditions or Islamic traditions. Like, for example, on Friday, this is when I grew up, everything is supposed to be closed on the second half of the day, because when people go to the mosque for the midday prayer, they go back home. Some of them choose to take the day off. Some of them choose to go back and open their shops. And Fes is the only city that still holds that tradition. So now, if you're traveling to Fes on Friday, just keep that in consideration.
Got it.
And also, if you like to go to church, if you like to go to synagogue, just make sure, again, where you're staying is at a walking distance of your church or a walking distance out of your synagogue, because there's quite a bit of them in Fes as well. Yeah. Things to see in Marrakesh. There's Madrasa Bouanania. Madrasa means school of. This was built back in the 14th century. There's a lot of madrasas and this type of schools in Meknes and also in Fes in Marrakesh. So if you have seen one madrasa or school of in Fes, you don't have to do the same thing in Marrakesh, because they're all similar with the same, just do something else a little different. And one of the most popular things to see in Fes is actually the downtown. There's the tanneries of Fes.
Right.
It's really, go ahead, please, Chris.
No, I've seen the pictures of the incredible color of the tanneries. It sounds odd to say you ought to see tanneries, because that is it's usually a stinky process.
Stinky is understatement. But they prepare you for it. They give you mint leaves. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, a lot of people, they grow up in ranches and in the countryside, and when they go to visit, like, oh, it was not that bad. Yeah, I agree, but for a lot of people, it is. But it's fun. It's really fun. When I visited Fas, it was incredible sight for me to see because we have one in Marrakesh, but the one in Fas is the biggest, the largest in the world, and also it's a World Heritage Site. And the leather that is made in Fas, you can find it globally anywhere in any market, including the US. So it's, and also economically, it's really important for Morocco as well. So
Interesting.
yeah.
I mentioned when I was bargaining in Essaouira, I didn't say I was bargaining for a leather belt. And he offered, I don't know what it was, 2 for $10 or something like that. And I said yes because, oh my gosh, you're kidding?
It is a bargain. Yes.
And it's actually leather versus
Yeah.
here
Yes.
I might get a pleather belt that's going to fall
Right.
apart in
Yeah.
2 days or something.
Yeah. And
So
also
leatherworks are definitely something that we came back with leatherworks and pottery and other crafts from our trip to Morocco.
yeah. Fas is definitely known for its leather. Pottery is definitely a Sawira.
Yeah.
And carpets, I would say it's a mixture of Fas and Marrakesh, but
Okay.
they can be overpriced. So if you're
Okay.
looking for carpets, there's, I would say, the Atlas Mountains. There's a village. There's actually 2 villages. There's one in Ait Ben Haddou, which a lot of people are familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
And
Lovely
there's
place.
one which is next to my village, which is in Tilwet, which is about 50-minute drive from Ait Ben Haddou. It's yeah, so that's actually where my village is. I spend a lot of summertime vacations as kid there. So those are the best places for me that I would recommend to anybody. Because Marrakesh, it's, yes, you'll see that it's nice, it's really good, but then you pay at least double or triple the price that you would in the Atlas Mountains.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's also, in one of the best places for me in Fas was the King's Palace.
Okay.
When I visited the King Palace, I've seen pictures before, just like everybody. It's stunning. But when I stood up in front of it, I was speechless. I really was speechless. It's a massive structure. It's incredible. The attention to detail, the Moroccan mosaic, the metal that it's built, the door, it's the mixture of the materials that the door is built in, the specific product that they use for cleaning it and maintain it. It was just amazing. And then when I gave my back to the royal palace, I saw, which a lot of people miss, it's an empty space and an empty square. And when the sun goes down and it's about to go dark, it's a marvelous sight. It's a beautiful sight. So I absolutely recommend the King's Palace. Sometimes it's gonna be challenging to see the sunrise, but definitely the sunset is amazing at the King's Palace. Then it's nobody lives there now, but sometimes there's meetings with presidents and other kings of other countries. But also you can see the guards, and next to it on the wall of the King's Palace, you'll see the Jewish quarter. You'll see Jewish houses. That's to the right hand side is the Jewish quarter, and it's amazing. It is a must see. And also there's the Jewish cemetery in Fes. You have to go and see it. It's just marvelous. It's incredible. The history. You look at the tombs. You look at the dates. It's just, my God. It's a lot of Jewish history in Marrakesh. So what about Fes? Especially Fes is it's the hub. I love Fes. I cannot. So yeah.
Now, my impression was from what you said earlier that this being more where Morocco got started,
Yes.
and I think the oldest of the 4 imperial cities. So would the palace be the oldest of the palaces, or did it get built by one of the later dynasties?
I do apologize. It was built, the Fes is the oldest imperial city, capital city of Morocco. And the King's Palace, which is Hassan II. Hassan II, when he lived, everything he did was just extraordinary. Everything he touches, you can see his attention to detail. When he did the mosque in Casablanca, he brought craftsmen, people from Fes. They do the wood, and they do what they are best at. That's what they do. They did it in the mosque. People from Marrakesh, people from all over Morocco, the marble, everything. It's incredible. And when he built the palace in Fes, it's no different. It is the largest in Morocco, and it has 7 doors in relevance to 7 heavens.
Okay.
It's a massive structure from the inside. No one is allowed to go inside. We're still hoping that the government will give us a chance to go inside, just to see a little bit of it, not to that extent, but it hasn't happened yet. But people who have been inside, they said they have never seen anything else like it in their lifetime. And this was built by Hassan II, which is this current
Dynasty. Yep. You've
yes,
got it.
yes. I do apologize. Sorry about
That's
that.
right.
Yes.
There's reason I ask questions, is I don't
Yes.
know.
Thank you. Thank you. Incredible.
Excellent. Anything else we're going to see in Fez
In
before we get to
Fez,
some of our wrap-up questions?
there's quite a bit to see. The Millah, which is the Jewish core, is definitely a must see.
Okay.
And again, when we talk about Jewish history, it's a combination of a lot of things. Morocco was Jewish thousands of years ago, before the Arabs came to Morocco. And those Jewish, they were Berbers. Our origin is Berbers. Everybody's don't know where the Berbers come from, but as we know, they came from a part in what's now Jordan, Syria, and what Israel and Palestine right now.
And Hercules, of course.
Yes, yeah, we had to bring Hercules. Yes, and when they lived in Morocco, some were Jews and some just worshipped the sun and the moon until the Moulay Idris the first. He was the brother of a king in Saudi Arabia, and they fought. The current king wanted to kill his brother, so his brother fled, and the only reason he stopped in Morocco because of the Atlantic Ocean. There's nowhere else he could have gone. And that's how everything started in Morocco. Yeah, so it's the Jewish history, the Berber history. It's amazing. It's incredible. So when you go to Morocco, just make sure you tap into it. Ask if you have a tour guide, ask. So it's really incredible.
Excellent. Anything else you want to talk about that someone needs to know before they go to Morocco, before we get to some of our wrap-up questions?
I would say Marrakesh is definitely got to be a must. It's a must stop as well. So there's a...
We're stretching this out from... How long would you say this itinerary you ought to spend?
8 days.
8 days. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
8 days.
We're moving around a lot.
Yes. It's because if you do longer, you may get tired because there's still
Okay.
quite a bit of driving. It's a lot of driving. You've been there, you've seen it. So it can get to you. If you do 9 days, you may need to take a day off or half a day off just to relax. So the next destination I would recommend is definitely Marrakesh. And it also has a lot of UNESCO World Heritage Sites as well. So there's a lot of places to see. Just like you said, the Medina, of course, Jam Al Fna. Just looking, for example, at the square, which is a World Heritage Site, I believe, since 1987. There's around it, there's about 700 hotels in Riyadh. So there's a lot of places where you can stay that it's close to the square and it's far away. It's not far away. So you can go visit the square, visit some other monuments and really historic sites without you having to use a taxi and stuff. So everything should be on walking distance for you as well.
Well,
And
you say the square, and I picture, having been there, this sea of people as well as places to sit down and have some food and
yes.
just a
Yes.
lot going on.
Yes. The square, us the locals, we call it the square, but it's actually called Jam Al Fna Square. And it is the largest square in Africa. And it's consistent, obviously,
believe
of square. And there's a little bit of gatherings of people, small gatherings. And those gatherings we call locally halqa. Halqa means a small gathering. And
Okay.
people, they can be just doing some magic, some games, anything, just storytelling, joke telling, and stuff like that. So that's what you're gonna see in Jam Al Fna. You'll see those gatherings for the snake charmers, gathering for the henna lady, those gatherings for the monkeys, where they play and come and take a picture with them. They'll scam you a little bit. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So it's those are the gatherings that I'm talking about. This and Jam Al Fna really becomes alive around 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It's very different during the day. If you want to
Mhm.
shop, I would absolutely say go to the square and the surrounding area around 10 in the morning, 11, because it's very quiet and nice and nobody will hassle you. But then around 5 o'clock, it changes and it stays busy, happening until around maybe 3, 4, or 5 in the morning. And one of my best recommendations, if you go into the square, go just about an hour, 45 minutes before the sun set. Choose a
Okay.
place to go, a terrace, second, third, or fifth floor on a coffee shop. And the thing is, when you go, you're not going to be able to sit down right away. Just wait for somebody to get up and then you can sit. And that's your table. Somebody will come, they'll greet you, they'll get you your drink and stuff like that. But it's really magical. And the backdrop of the square is the Kutubiyya Mosque, which is, and again, it's an amazing site. It was built by Yusuf bin Tashfin. This is back in the 5th century. So it's one of the oldest mosques around. And then if you want to get some food, just like you said earlier, Chris, go down to the square and you'll see it. Just follow your nose. They'll take you to where the chicken is, where the beef
Right.
is, where the kebab is, everything. And it's amazing. And again, if you want to eat, go somewhere where you see a lot of locals. And it shouldn't cost you more than $5 for a really
Right.
good filling dinner. The food in the square is not really that expensive. So just to be on the safe side, yeah.
And with the lively nature of the square, I would consider it really both a dinner and a show. So
Oh, most definitely. Yes. Yes. That's right. Yes. Yes.
excellent. Anything else you want to say in Marrakesh? And then we're gonna cut it off here. You can't get more than Marrakesh.
Okay. Okay. I'm so sorry.
I know there's more to see in
I
Morocco,
know.
but we have to save some things for another
Okay.
episode.
I would say the gardens. There's the Menara Gardens, which we spoke
Okay.
about, which is similar to if you go visit Fas. Then we have Majorel Garden, and we have the Majorel Garden really was owned by YSL, and there's a museum for him as well. There's the Berber Museum as well. There's also Agdal Garden. So there's also Mamounia Hotel Garden. So there's a lot of gardens in Marrakesh to go and see. Then there's the Saadian tombs. Then there's obviously places to stay, riads, and Kutubia Mosque as well. Yeah. Yes.
We do have a couple other episodes that talk about we have one episode just on Marrakesh and then one on Marrakesh and doing the southern route coming up to Essaouira, going down to the Sahara.
Yes.
And then we have another episode we've done more recently, starting in Casablanca and heading the opposite direction than we did today, which is one of the reasons why Azdean and I talked about this particular itinerary. Azdean, on this itinerary, what's the prettiest spot? If I'm in the prettiest spot on this whole trip, where am I sitting and what am I looking at?
It really depends. We create itineraries. I'll give you an example. The itinerary we create for you will be different than the next person because
the one you gave us today.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna make you pick one spot.
That is really hard. I'm gonna make some enemies.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! I would say Chefchaouen.
Okay.
Chefchaouen, yeah.
It was a safe
Yes,
guess.
Chefchaouen. It's the vibe of the city, the people. Yeah. My experience. I stayed in Riyadh Shah, which is just under the Spanish mosque, but this is for the foreigners. But for us, the locals, that area is very popular because there's a Moroccan serial film acting and stuff like that was filmed in one of those houses close to the Riyadh where I was staying. So a lot of Moroccans, when they go, they go to that house. That's what they want to see, where the film was made and stuff like that. So it was really nice for me to experience both of them. And then everybody stays late at night. Nobody goes to bed early. When I really loved that people don't get up in the morning. So it gave me an opportunity to walk throughout the city with my GoPro. It was amazing. I loved it.
And this one may be a little more difficult as a local. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Morocco.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there one thing that makes you laugh and say only in Morocco?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll give you an example. When you're in Marrakesh, the name of Marrakesh is strange. It comes from basically people pay attention to details. So when you come in and someone say, hey, you missed this, or you have something on your face, or you have a sauce on your nose or something. So they really pay attention, especially in Marrakesh. Nobody will say anything anywhere you go. But once you land in Marrakesh, hey, excuse me, Chris, you have something on your nose. You've been traveling for 10 days. Nobody said nothing to you.
Oh no! So now that it happens in Marrakesh, I'm going to wonder how many days I had that on my nose. That's funny. And if you had to summarize Morocco in just 3 words, what 3 words would you pick?
Hospitality.
Okay.
Generosity.
Okay.
Must visit.
I'll give you that as a hyphenated word. Excellent. Our guest again has been Azdean Elmoustaquim. Yeah. Am I at all close when I pronounce your name there?
No, you did great. That's perfect.
Okay.
You said it perfectly.
DestinationMorocco.co.com. And again, the Destination Morocco podcast. And I think you're going to get some listeners here from people who want to come to Morocco and want to hear more about your beautiful country. It certainly makes me want to go back to hear you describe it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on Amateur Traveler and telling us your love for your home country of Morocco.
I'm very grateful and extremely appreciative for the opportunity, Chris. I really cannot thank you enough. Anytime you want to go to Morocco, let me help you. Let me plan everything for you from A to Z. You're going to have a lifetime experience. I know you have been, but the way that we do it is a little different. It feels like you're a guest versus you're a traveler or a tourist. And this is just between you and me. When you have people traveling, we'll give them some discounts. When you're traveling, we'll give you deep discount, or maybe we can just do the whole thing for free. But
Thank you so much.
yes, and I really mean it. I really mean it. And the funny thing, I say this to a lot of people, they just laugh and they never call me back. Or so
We'll have Azdean's link in the show notes here. So if you're going to Morocco, I'll give him a call.
thank you.
Special thanks to the patrons of the show who support Amateur Traveler financially. And if you're interested in becoming a patron of Amateur Traveler because you've gone on some great trips because of what you heard here, go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler to learn more. Speaking of patrons, I heard from Jeff Ulfs, patron of the show and former guest, who said about the show we did on Bolivia. Bolivia episode brought back memories. 3 things I'd add. Outside Santa Cruz de la Sierra is the pre-Incan ruin of El Fuerte de Campata, a World Heritage Site. This is the furthest east the Inca civilization got. The ruins are believed to be a ceremonial rock-carved temple to the jaguar and snake gods, with the remnants of dwellings for a city population of 500. Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods fame, believed it was an ancient UFO takeoff and landing ramp. In El Alto, you can watch the Fighting Cholitas. These are native women dressed in their traditional layers of colorful petticoats and wearing bowler hats who wrestle each other in an arena, choreographed not unlike our TV wrestling. They were fun, and there was always a villain. There were lots of little children, and they got them to help count the knockdowns to learn their numbers. Crossing Lake Titicaca, you pass Bolivia's only naval base. As a landlocked country, their navy is only on this lake. Your guest mentioned Isla del Sol. This is where the Inca Empire was born, and you can hike a portion of the Inca Trail. A museum houses exhibits on the Inca culture, including mummies. You can receive a Kalawaya, Inca shaman blessing. You can also take a reed boat on the lake. The reed boat is native to the area and is where Thor Heyerdahl, Kon-Tiki fame, learned his boat construction techniques. Cheers, Jeff. And Jeff, the only thing about that I was disappointed in is TV wrestling is fake. With that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And thanks so much for listening.